Okay, hi everyone. Today's video is meant to show us how to use a template to cut a slab shape to make a form. So for this project, you will have three different options of shape. First one is this larger square sort of candy dish shape. It's longer, square, and it's got these shallow edges, and that shape looks like this. You've got the option of what I call like a flower bowl, and it's this rounded off shape that gives it this kind of cute little rounded edge bowl. And then the third shape I call a square flare bowl, and this is the shape that it gives you. It's got kind of a good depth here for maybe like salsa or guacamole or maybe some earrings. So it's a great like little trinket dish. And this is the template that I'll be using for the video to show you how to cut out your shape to create your piece. The first thing you're going to want to do is trim out the template. You're going to take a pair of scissors and cut around the black outer line so that you get the internal shape. Make sure to throw away any scraps so that we don't have paper all around the classroom. And then you're going to keep this for the next step. Slabs are thin sheets of clay. You could see this mug was made with a slab. So this wall of clay is the same thickness all the way around. And the way that we work with slabs is by using our slab sticks. These slab sticks are available under sink 4, and you're going to need 2 of them to get started in rolling out your slab. Now, I've got a ball of pre-wedged clay here that is ready to go. Wedging, of course, is really important to make sure that it is nice and even all the way through, that there's no air bubbles, and that the clay is the same wetness. So the first thing you're gonna do is just take the heel of your hand and put a good amount of pressure to make, I guess, like the start of like a pancake. I like to kind of flip and rotate it so that I'm getting nice, even pressure throughout. And you're going to want to flatten that piece of clay as best as you can. The next thing you're going to need is a rolling pin. Now the rolling pins are on the back side of the period 1 cabinet, and there's about a dozen of them, so we'll share around the room. You don't need it for too long, so you could share with a table mate. And then you're going to place your train tracks, your slab sticks, on either side of your pancake. Now the rolling pins, you want to make sure are nice and cleaned off. Sometimes dried clay gets on them, and if you have any dried clay bits, those impressions are going to get pressed into your clay and make it look super ugly. So just take the rolling pin to the sink, use one of the little scrubbers, and get it nice and cleaned off. It dries really fast, and then you're ready to go with a nice smooth surface to make a nice smooth slab. So the first thing you're going to want to do is put your rolling pin on the near side of your pancake and roll it to the other side. If you've ever made sugar cookies around the holiday time, this is a very similar process. And after you're done with that first roll, I like to flip and rotate my slab piece. That's going to allow a much larger surface area to work with. So you're going to repeat this process of going from one side of the clay piece to the other. And one trick is that you could see on the front end it actually moving. And so you're going to keep going until it stops moving. You could see it's growing in size. So when you get to a place where you feel like it's nice and flat, and you're putting a good amount of pressure on those train tracks, that's going to make sure that we know that it's the same thickness all the way through. So I could see here, I'll do just for good measure, I'll do one more pass. And I see it's still moving a little bit more, so that was a good idea. And now I feel confident that that thickness of this piece of clay is the same thickness of those train tracks. So now you have a nice, clean, even sheet of clay. One thing that I like to do is take a sponge and super gently go side to side to clean that slab up. You don't want to press down because then you're going to get some imprints in it. The thing to note about slabs is there are certain things that you're going to want to do when it's really soft, like rolling it and cutting it out. And then there's absolutely things that you're going to want to wait to do until it firms up a little bit. like start to assemble. So on day one, the important thing to do is get your slab rolled out and then trimmed out. Now, sometimes if I'm working with slab and I was doing this, I might even let it sit here for 5 or 10 minutes to firm up just slightly. For the sake of the video, I'm going to go ahead and cut out our shape, but just know that sometimes waiting when you're working with slabs actually makes it a little bit easier because it's not as gooey. Anytime you're working with slabs, you want to be really gentle because when it's super soft, it can obviously get little finger pocket marks or imperfections very easily. So you're going to want to find the place on your slab that you like the best, that looks the cleanest, and put your cut template right on the surface. Now the good news is with a little bit of moisture in the clay, you can kind of gently press it down and it kind of sticks to the clay. Now the tools that you're going to want to use for trimming are either the fettling knife or the needle tool, sometimes called a pin tool. Either one of these are great tools for trimming. And another trick that I like to use is to actually use one of the slab sticks as a guide to make the cut nice and clean. So if you put that slab stick right on the outside edge of your cut template shape and put a little bit of gentle pressure, you're going to be able to cut a nice clean line. So on the square flare template, I like to go around all of the main edges first. And sometimes you have to change your body orientation and your hands to have the right angles. And you can remove some of those extra pieces. You can see here that that slab is the same thickness all the way through, nice and clean. And then you could go back in and trim those additional pieces. I like on this one to go from the inside out. I think it gives me a better cut. So you're going to do this all the way around until you have your square flare template, your flower bowl template, or your square plate template all trimmed out. Again, nice, easy, gentle, not too much pressure. You want to be really, really slow and intentional with your movements around slab because they are very susceptible to nicks and bumps and yucky things if you're not super gentle. So the one thing to note is once you get your shape cut out, and if the paper is sticking to your piece, it's totally fine. It will ultimately come off, and paper does burn away in the kiln, so there's nothing to worry about. But you can attempt to remove it if it's bothering you. Let's see if this one comes off for me. It's super normal if it sticks a bit, but we'll be able to see our square flare bowl template cut out. And again, you just want to be really gentle because any tiny little divot can cause some issues with what it ultimately looks like. Okay, so now I see I've got my shape cut out. At this point, my encouragement is to do very little. If you're feeling like you want to gently, super gently, take a sponge to some of those edges to clean them up, you're welcome to do that. Remember, you're going to be able to do a lot of cleanup once we go to attach this together. Sometimes I like to just give it a little gentle once over to make sure it's nice and clean. And then at this point, my encouragement is to leave it be. I would leave it for a solid 10 or 15 minutes if you have the time before you even touch it. Remember that slabs are just so fragile, and if you do too much movement too quickly, then you're going to get little pocket marks, and they're really frustrating. They don't look super nice. So depending on how much time you have, I would let it hang out for a while. let it get a little drier. At whatever time you need to put it on your board, you're going to very, very gently lift it up on the edges as gently as you can. I like to kind of just get my edges sort of up a little bit. You can see it's just really wet and sticky. But then very, very gently, I could place it on my board, covered with no wet paper towel overnight, because we do want this to lose a little bit of moisture to go to the next step where we will learn to assemble it. So this is what you should try to get done on day 1 of the project. Choose your template, cut it out, roll slab, cut your shape out, and gently put it on your board in your locker overnight and go to the assembly on the next day.